I'm back. It's me again. Thank you for all the lovely messages. I had a bit of a stomach bug and a bit of a sore throat. Not the C word, don't worry. I don't think so anyway. None of those symptoms. All is good now. And I'm recording this video just to finish off our term and finish off the last 2 days of maths. Thank you for all of the messages and emails I've been getting recently. It's been really great to see everyone still engaged in our second week of home learning. This is our last week now. Next week is Easter term holiday, as it would normally have been. So, the same as if school were open. A tiny bit of homework I've set for you, which is the English, writing that story using those skills you've learned the last 2 weeks about fairy tales. And for maths, well, you'll see what we're going to learn about the next couple of days. The first part of this video is for parents, guidance on what to do, what we're going to do the next few days, and then the rest of the video will be teaching for Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays maths lessons, which are all about telling the time. So mums and dads and parents and carers and grandmas and granddads, whoever's teaching, here are the statutory requirements for teaching the time. It's under the unit of measurement in year 1, where children have to be able to sequence events in chronological order. They also have to be able to recognise and use languages relating to dates and days of the week. And also they have to tell the time using a clock. Now that's an analogue clock. Well, those old school clocks, and that digital 4 numbers with a colon in the middle of it business. And it's telling the time to the hour, so that's o'clock, and half past the hour, that's half past o'clock. This learning about telling the time is going to bleed into every single day. What time you wake up, what time you go to bed, what time you go to the shop, go for a walk, what time your favourite TV program's on, and things like that. So I thought it would be a nice way to lead into the Easter holiday, would be a quick introduction to telling the time at o'clock and half past. And just, throughout the half term, when you're with your children, ask them what time it is and keep practicing it. In class, I have often stopped class and be like, oh, everyone, quick look at the time. What time is it? And briefly talk about it. And I'm sure some children have just picked up through osmosis from watching you. And those who have watches are already telling the time digitally. I've seen some of them already doing that, and Fitbits and things like that. So, some might get it quicker than others. Others might not have seen a clock before, or they might only have digital clocks at home. But the idea here is to learn how to use analog clocks. So looking at this national curriculum objective here, recognising and using language related to dates, including days of the week, weeks, months and years, well, it's something we do every single day. I mean, we write the day every single day. It's one of the things we do in school. One of the things you've been doing since school started, or since you've been learning from home, is getting the children to write the long date every single day in the morning, first thing. They're also writing the month every single day. It's March right now, and normally in the morning, one of the first questions I ask the children is, what day is it today? Or it's Wednesday, the 1st of April. What's a short day? It's Wednesday, which is the 3rd day. What's tomorrow? Thursday. It's April, which is the 4th month. So what's the month before? What's the month after? We're using that vocab all the day. It's not something we discreetly teach. And teaching the year, well, we write it every single day. After Christmas, we talk about how the year had changed, and we talk about it's still 2020. So, I don't think we particularly need to teach a unit of work on how to use language relating to dates, because it's something that happens every single day. A big year 1 objective, however, is writing those days of the week and spelling them perfectly with a capital letter, without any assistance from any adults, being able to just know it's Wednesday, I have to spell that Wednesday. It's Thursday, I know how to spell that. I know it's not a for example. And daily we convert that long date into a short date. The only time we do talk about months is every time I teach a seasons lessons in science. We do talk about how many seasons there are, how many days of the month there are. So, about 4 times a year we do learn about those months specifically, as well as before Christmas we do a bit of writing about months as well. So these are the 2 objectives that are left then, sequencing events and telling the time. And what we're going to focus on over the next few days until Easter is telling the time to the hour and half past. Okay, so this is the end of the parent bit, and now it's time for us to learn about telling the time for the kids. Good morning, year 1. It's time to get on with our maths learning. So have a look at that clock. It's on that wall behind that girl, behind that door. She's walking in, or maybe she's walking out. And it says what time she's walking in or walking out. I wonder if you know what time it is. Don't worry if you don't, because that's what we're going to learn about over the next few days. So there's that clock on her wall. It's got a red stick with an arrow on the end, and it's got a blue stick with an arrow on the end. And they're both in the middle of that clock. We call those funny sticks with arrows on the end hands. They look nothing like hands, absolutely nothing like hands, like the hands you've got. You've got two hands, I've got two hands, but they look absolutely nothing like those hands, but we call them the clock hands, which go on the clock's face. Very funny. So the red one we use for minutes, and the blue one we use for hours, but they're not always blue and they're not always red. If you've got a clock at home, this would be a great time to get it out and have a look at it. Or make sure you sit somewhere where you can see it, maybe, if you can't take it off the wall. Or a watch. A watch is also good, but make sure it's an analog clock or watch. That means one that's got those two hands and not one that is digital, that has those numbers on it. Your mums and dads will help you with that. So look at all these different hands. Look at the hands on your clock. Look at the hands on this clock, on these different clocks. What do you notice about the two hands? Pause the video and have a think. They're in pairs. What do you notice? You might have noticed that one of them is longer and one of them is shorter. Let's go back and look. Yeah, one of them always is longer and one of them always is shorter, isn't it? So look at this one. That one's the long one, that one's the short one. That one's short and that one's long. Well, this is hard to tell, but I think this one's shorter than this one's longer. Oh my, on all of these hands, one is always shorter than the other. Oh, and look at this clock. This clock's even got a third hand, and that's a really long hand. I think that's used for something entirely different. We're not going to learn about that. So this is the minute hand, and this is the hour hand. What do you notice? Which one is longer, the minute hand or the hour hand? And which one is shorter, the minute hand or the hour hand? Now that's always the case. The shorthand is always used for the hours, and the minute hand is always used for the long hand is always used for the minutes. Now that's always the case. The minute hand is always the longer hand, and the hour hand is always the shorter hand. But they're not always blue and red. So right now, the minute hand, what's the minute hand? The minute hand is the long hand. The long hand is the minute hand. The short hand is the hour hand. Right, go back in the PowerPoint if you're not sure, because it's always the information is always there. The minute hand, the long hand, is pointing to the number 12. That's the minute hand. What about the hour hand, the shorter blue one? The hour hand is pointing to the 8. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Why are we saying that? What does that mean? Oh, that means the time, doesn't it? Right. So the minute hand is on the 12 and the hour hand is on the 8. What time is it? The time is 8 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. I wonder if it's 8 o'clock in the morning or if it's 8 o'clock in the evening. Let's move on. So why do we say it's o'clock? Why do you use these words o'clock, o'clock? Oh, clock, how are you? Oh, clock, it's nice to see you. Say, good morning to your clock. Oh, good morning, oh, clock. Well, we say it's o'clock when the minute hand is pointing to the 12. So if we have a look at our clock, our red hand, our minute hand, it's pointing to the 12, isn't it? Yes, it is. Look at it now. Is it still pointing to the 12? Yeah, the long minute hand is pointing to the 12, even though it's a different clock. What about on this clock? Oh, it's got a really long one, but that's for something else. It's got that one there. It's a really long hand. That's for seconds. It's for something entirely different. But our long one is pointing to the 12, isn't it? And on this one? Oh, yeah, the long one's pointing to the 12 again. Oh, it's blue this time, our long hand. It's long. It's the minute hand, but it's blue this time, not red. They swapped it over on that one. It's a different clock entirely. But still, the long minute hand is pointing to the 12. And again. So on all these clocks, that long hand is pointing to the 12. And when the minute hand is pointing to 12, we say o'clock. When the long hand is pointing to the 12, we say o'clock. When the long hand is pointing to the 12, we say okay. But why do we say it's 8 o'clock? Why not 17 o'clock or 51 o'clock or 1 million o'clock? Well, When the hour hand is pointing to 8, we say 8 o'clock. Now the hour hand, if I remember correctly, is the short hand. So that shorter hand is our hour hand. And when it's pointing to 8, we say it's 8 o'clock. Let's have a look at this one again. Oh, the short hand's pointing to 8, and the big hand is pointing to 12. So big hand means it's 8 o'clock. Little hand means it's 8. Oh, I see. And again, the big hand's on the 12 and the small hand's on the 8. So it's 8 o'clock. And the little hand is on the 8 again. So it's 8. Is the big hand on the 12? Yes, it is. So it's 8 o'clock. And the little hand's on the 8 again. The big hand's on the 12. It's 8 o'clock. And the little hand's on the 8 again. The big hand's on the 12. It's 8 o'clock again. So all these clocks are showing the small hour hand pointing to the 8 and the big minute hand pointing to the 12. So it's 8 o'clock. So why is it 8 o'clock? Well, the minute hand is pointing to the 12, so we say it's 8 o'clock. And the hour hand is pointing to the 8, so we say it's 8 o'clock. Interesting. Oh, look at all these clocks. Oh, I noticed something. What do you notice about all those clocks? What are their long hands all pointing to? They're pointing to 12, aren't they? And when the minute hand, the big hand, is pointing to the 12, it's showing us the minutes. And when it's pointing us to the 12, it's showing us o'clock, isn't it? So that one is pointing to the 12. What about the next one? Is that one pointing to the 12? Yes, that one's pointing to the 12. This one is pointing to the 12. And this one, the minute hand, is pointing to the 12. Okay. Now the hour hand, that's the other hand, is pointing to the hour. And it's not pointing to the 8 anymore, is it? On the first one, it's pointing to the number 2. And on this one, the small hand is pointing to the 7. And on this one, it's pointing to the 4. And on this one, it's pointing to the 10. Aha. So what hour are they pointing to? Quickly say them again. 2, 7, 4, and 10. Okay, so these 4 clocks are all showing totally different times. Let's try and work out now what time it is. The minute hand shows us the minutes. The hour hand shows us the hours. So let's look. On the first one, well, the minute hand is pointing to the 12, so I know that's o'clock. And the shorter hand, the blue hand, is pointing to the 2, so the hour is 2. So it must be 2 o'clock. And then the next one. The minute hand is on the 12, so I know I'm going to say o'clock. But which o'clock is it? 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 20 o'clock? Oh, the little hand is pointing to the 7, so it must be 7 o'clock. Next one. The big hand's pointing to the 12, so it's o'clock. And the little hand is pointing to the 4, so it must be 4 o'clock. And the last one, it's very late at night or early in the morning. The little hand is pointing to the 10, so I know it's the 10th hour, it's hour number 10, and the big hand is on the 12, I know it's o'clock, so it's 10 o'clock. You see how that time is the other way around? I looked to see what the hour hand was on first, didn't I? It was on 10. I looked at this one, and I said it was o'clock, so I know when the big hand's on 12, it's o'clock. Right, you'll go. Try and fill in those blanks. So you can see there where the big hand is, and below the picture, it's got the words 12 o'clock. The next one, can you work out what time it is? The big hand is on the 12, the small hand is on the 1. See if you can work it out. Write it in your task book, your learning book. You can write it down to your maths task for today. Okay, we're going to move on now. So the first one is 1 o'clock. Have a go at the next two now. You can see the rest of them. Have a look at the 2 blue ones that are not filled in. Fill in those blanks. Pause the video and we'll go over the answers in a second. Okay, so the next one was 6 o'clock because the big hand's on the 12, so it's o'clock, and the small hand's on the 6, so it's 6 o'clock. And the next one, 11 o'clock. So the little hand's on the 11 and the big hand's on the 12. This is a great time where you could use your real clock to practice moving the big hand and the small hand around. Okay, keep that big hand on the 12 and move the little hand around to see what time or different times you could say at o'clock. You could also click on that link, which will take you to a website with your mum or your dad or your adult who is around helping you. You can go on that website and you can use it. For mums and dads, it's not, I think it's supposed to pay for, so it says for evaluation only on it, but the clock is great to manipulate and you can move around with it, okay, if you haven't got a digital clock at home. So have a go at that for a couple of minutes and then we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, so here's a boy, he's getting up and he's going to go do something, but what time is he getting up and going to go do something? Well, in the first one, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I know it's 5 o'clock in the evening because the little hand's on the 5 and the big hand's on the 12. Okay, now he's going to the beach on a different day and it's a different time. What time is it? And then he's having his lunch. I know it's lunchtime and not dinner time because I can tell what time it is. I think they're late lunch. So in the first one, it is 11 o'clock in the morning. And the next one, it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Afternoon, it's after 12. Noon is another word for 12. And when it's after 12 o'clock, we say it's after noon, after 12. Okay, task 1, everybody. In your learning books, you can see these different clocks. I want you to tell me what time it is. The first one's an example. It says 1 o'clock. Look at the clock and write the times. You don't need to copy the clocks into your learning books. You can just put A and put the answer for A, then B, then C, then D, then E, then F, then G. Do the video pause and have a go at your first task, year 1. Mums and dads, if children are struggling with this, there's another PowerPoint on the last page that you can use to practice. Okay, it's time for our second task. So, Holly wakes up at what time in the morning? Fill in the gap. Have a look at the picture. It tells you what time it is on the clock. So you can fill in those gaps. You can quickly copy out those sentences and fill in the gap when you copy out those sentences. Pause the video now and give it a go, then check with an adult. Task 3. This is time for us to use our reasoning, use our thinking skills and our verbalization. We're going to use our voices to really think about this problem. Amir says the time is 3 o'clock. What mistake has Amir made? It isn't actually 3 o'clock. So have a look. Have a look at the big hand and the small hand and what they do, because you've practiced that now, you know what they do. What mistake has Amir made? Okay, let's talk about it. So you should have paused and given that a go and written an answer in your learning book. Let's have a go. Pause it now if you haven't, but otherwise we're going to go on with the answers. So Amir has read the hour hand and the minute hand the wrong way round. He thinks the short hand tells him his minutes, and he thinks his long hand tells him the hours, but they don't. It's the other way round. It's not 12 o'clock, he's on 3:15, which is a different time in China we've not even learned about yet. So the short hand should be on the 3, and the long hand should be on the 12 if it was going to be 3 o'clock. If it was 3 o'clock, it would be like this, wouldn't it? Long hand on the 12, and short hand on the 3. That looks much better, doesn't it? That would be 3 o'clock. But it's not. So, sorry, Amir, you are wrong. Okay, well done, year 1. That's the end of today's task. Go, and for the rest of the day, think about what time it is. Think about what time it is all day. Every time you see the clock, shout it out. It's 4 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock. And tomorrow we'll be learning about past. So after tomorrow, we'll be able to do that. Have fun.